All right, there's one other thing here I want to talk about before we go to the buyers, is this thing called a net listing. Net listings are confusing at best, illegal at worst. A net listing is when a client comes to you and says, I want to sell my house and I want to net 100 grand. Anything over that you can sell it for, you can keep as the commission. All right? Huh? It could be illegal. All right? Yeah, it could violate your responsibility and loyalty rules. What if it, and here's what it's designed to protect, and let me finish, don't let me forget to finish why it's illegal, or how to not make it illegal. What happened if some little old lady came to you that's 80, lives in Broad Ripple, and says, Joe, I bought this house 150,000 years ago. I paid 10 grand for it. I now want to move, so gosh, I'd be happy with 30,000. So anything over that, you can have. And you're like, okay. And then you sell it for 400 grand because it's appreciated that much in Broad Ripple over the last 30 years. She walks away with 30 grand, you walk away with $370,000. That's why it's there, all right?
But how often does that happen? Somebody says you keep the rest.
Never underestimate the stupidity of a human. So net listings, when someone says, I need to net 100 grand, whatever you sell for over that, you can keep as a net listing. They are potentially illegal unless you do a couple things. One is you have to disclose it's a net listing to everybody in the party. So on the top of the listing, you would write net listing. On the MLS sheet, you would write and you have to write the maximum amount of commission you will earn. So basically what you're saying, what you're telling them is what the client wants to net. So in that example I just used, you put houses listed for 400,000, net listing, my max commission's $370,000. Somebody's going to come after you for that. Somebody's going to look at that and go, hey, we probably need to call the commission. But if you said listed for 108, net listing, max commission's 8 grand, okay, that's 8%. That may be a little high, but it's not unethical.
Plus the other person will know exactly what
Right, plus the other person knows. I will tell you that we don't do a lot of net listings, but we do the math to calculate a net listing, okay? And I want to actually do that math. And I think I may have to insert a slide in here to show how this is done. Because a net listing, when someone says, I want to net this amount of money, and you do the math, that was very common in the 2009, 2010, 2011 range when people were just trying to get out and pay off their loan. Hey, I just want to pay my loan off and walk away, I'll be fine. That's theoretically a net listing. I need to clear that 100 grand to pay my loan off, all right? So let's have some fun with math real quick, because this potentially could be on your exam. And this is probably the second most popular math equation you guys will do. First one is calculating your commission, which we did the other day. This is a very common one when your client comes to you and says, I'm in trouble with the bank, I just want to sell my house, I owe them 100 grand, I want to pay them off and walk away. Very common scenario, all right? So let's do some math here real quick and talk about it. Let's say the client owes exactly $100,000. So their outstanding loan is 100 grand. They call you up and they say, Raymond, want to pay the 100 grand off, walk away before it starts hurting my credit. Can you list my property? I say, sure. So my question to you is, what's the minimum number that we can accept to pay this loan off of $100,000? But wait, there's more. because don't forget, this person also has to pay their closing costs. And you, in your infinite wisdom, say, oh, I've done 37 million houses in your neighborhood. I know that the closing costs are $1,500 to close your house. You got title fees, you got recording fees, you got the TIF fee and all this. All those fees are going to be $1,500. And my boss Raymond is a real pain in the butt. He will only let me list it at 7%, which they have to pay that too, right, as the seller. So my question to you is, what math number is the minimum amount of money I can list this property at and pay all these people? What do we got? 107,100. Is that what you put? There's answer A.
Wouldn't taxes have to be factored into that as well?
That's in the closing costs.
108.5.
Well, I'm not allowing you to round up. I want a number.
108.5.
We have letter B, 108.5.
I have
102,900. Yours was different. 108,605. So I'm going to have to insert a slide in the online people, so I want to make sure I capture these. I saw a deer in my front yard today, a 2-point buck. So I make sure I get the number. So we've got 4 choices here. Here's your choice, multiple choice letter, A, B, C, and D. Ethan, you look like you got a different number. Really? Because I saw the picture was still on my phone. That and I'm killing time while I was taking a picture. Somebody's going to be writing notes now going, 108,000, 2-point buck. How'd that figure in?
I got different.
Somehow I lost. Where's the 2-point buck come in at? Thank you, Ethan. You got a different answer? We're going with letter E. Oh, so now you got B. So we got 4 answers. Letter A is 107,100. Letter B is 108,500. Letter C is 100,600. 108,605. C is wrong because we're already going to eliminate C because she said her own decimal point. How many think the 107,100 is correct? Nobody. How about the one person that said?
It wasn't me, but
All right, so you got 2. How many think 108.5 is correct? 5, 6, 7. Obviously, the rest of you think 108.605. Some of you obviously did not vote. I will tell you that all 4 are incorrect. There's a long way to go to get to that. All 4 are incorrect. But let's try 108.5 because that seemed to be the popular one. All right? So we're going to now work down the tree again. Remember? So if we say that 108.5 is true, how much is the commission I earned? How much? Most certainly is not. I think lights are starting to appear.
75, 95.
So the commission is 7% of the sales price. So that's 108.5 is what you told me the sales price is, right? So 7% is, what'd you say, Joe?
75, 95.
I'm trusting him. So take that from 108.5. What do you have left? $108.5. $100,905. Now they got to pay their closing costs of $1,500. So you got $100,905 subtract their closing costs that they have to pay to get to that sale, and they get 99,000, what, 465? Right? Oh, oops. They owe 100 grand. They cannot pay the $100,000 off. Now, I know some of you are thinking, well, they could bring $500 to the table. Let's assume that they're not have any money to bring to the table. They only have $99,465. They cannot pay off their loan. They just sold their house on a deal they didn't even have enough money to clear. So 1085 is not the answer. And if you were my agent, guess where that $500 would come from? Out of your commission, because you erroneously told them the wrong number. Before you came to me and said, hey, I need to do this. Can you help me with the math? Sure. So let's go back and look at this the right way. Let's erase all these numbers and start again. So let's work through this logically. There is a buyer that's going to come to the table. That buyer is going to bring some money. It's my stack of coins, right? That amount of money is going to pay the realtor, pay the closing fees, and pay their $100,000 off. Do we know how much that money is? No, we don't. That's the question we're solving. So let's call this amount of money X. And you guys never thought you'd use algebra again. Here we go. How much of that pile of money comes to Raymond and the Modulin Group? 7% of it, right? I don't know what the number is, but I know that the commission was listed at what? 7%. So I get 7% of that. So of that pile of money, how much does she have left? 93%. So she has 0.93% of X, right? 0.93 in decimal is 93%. Are we good with that? Just like the other day. That pile of money that's left on the table has to equal all of her bills, because they got to pay all of her bills off. How much are her bills? Don't forget, she got closing costs. So Joe hit it. Her total bill amount is the 100,000 plus the 1,500. So her bills have to be $101,500, right? Ta-da, algebra. 0.93x equals 1015, solve for x. How do you do that? I don't want 0.93x, I want just 1x. And the easy trick to do that, remember, is if you take any number and divide it by itself, it becomes 1. So I divide by 0.93, which I can do on that side of the equal as long as I do what? Do it on the other side as well. 0.93. So if you took 1,500, and you divided it by 0.93, you get like 109, what?
139.79.
Okay. And a 2-point buck. You get 109, 139. Let's just call it that. That, my friends, is the minimum amount your seller can accept to pay everybody off. Anything under that number, there is not enough money to pay everybody. That would be, this is a very common scenario for you.
Does time at all factor in there?
Well, time would factor, but we're not going to call it because it could change the payoff.
Right.
All right? So what you might want to do is figure out, okay, how much do you owe at so-and-so? All right? But for this math question, no, it doesn't. Let's assume she owes $100,000. That's a constant number. Because taxes would change based, if you live in there 2 more days, she owes 2 more days of taxes, might change your closing cost and all that. So yeah, it could. All right? But for this scenario, and if you want to have some fun, take 109, 139, and now figure it back the regular way. Take 7% of that, subtract it off. Guess what number you're left with? 101, 500. Subtract the 1,500 closing off, you're left with 100 grand. Boom. Sales price, or the outstanding loan. And this game can be played all the time. The key to this is understanding 2 things. How much of the portion does she get, or he, or they, it doesn't matter. And that number is known because it's what's left over after I take my portion first. So if I charged her 6%, she'd get 94 of it, right? If I charged her 12%, she'd get 88. The other key to it is understanding that this is all her bills. And we could play the game all day. We could say she has a $100,000 outstanding loan. She wants to keep $100,000 and walk away with. She's got $1,800 in closing, and she wants to pay off a $200 bill lien against her property. Really doesn't matter what they are. Just add them up. And whatever number you come up with, you would divide by her portion. So it could be 128,560 divided by 0.94. That'll tell you the number. All right? Got it? It's a very common scenario. Very common. What you hope is you overestimate the closing. What you hope is you sell it before you figure in the time or anything like that. So in this scenario, to play Dusty's devil's advocate, if it's 109, 139, that's the number you come up with, you would probably sit down with her and go, okay, now we got to play the game a little bit with these people, so let's start at like 114. So that if they offer something, we can come down a little bit, but we know that we cannot go below 139, 109, 139, because we can't. All right? So you might bump it up and start at 119, allow that, and maybe what will happen is you start at 114, they offer 110, and you go, yeah, we'll take it. That's actually almost $900 above, so she may walk away with money in that case, which is better than what she started. You've now done your client a favor. This math is on the test. There's one of these on the test. Okay? I'm going to have to add that into the slides, obviously. So that's calculated like a net listing. That's calculated like a net listing. All right?